Most YouTube creators do this at the end of the video, but I do it first thing. Not saying I'm better, I'm just far more considerate. So thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, both of you, John Borg and Bill Wolf. You are the few and the proud, and I loves ya. If you're not a member of my Patreon but would like to because you like what I do here for some reason, I'd love to have you on board, so check out the link in the video description and let's get this party started. Believe it or not, I've never seen a single Fast and the Furious movie. Yeah, I have nothing against them, and I have no strong opinions about them because they've never entered my sphere of observation. It's like these movies are Saturn, and I'm Uranus. I'm aware of its existence, but it doesn't affect me, and I just didn't care. I'm not into cars, and I'm really not a huge fan of any of the actors in this movie, although I will say that I will watch a Riddick movie at the drop of a hat. But given that this is a pop culture train that I missed, I figured it was time to rectify that situation. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the inaugural episode of Jason Finally Watches The Fast and the Furious. The Fast and the Furious is an action-adventure, testosterone-soaked racing crime movie released in 2001? This movie is over 2 decades old. Wow, if it were a person, it would be able to drink, gamble, and have its entire life ruined by capitalism by now. I'm so old. But pretty. This movie stars Paul Walker, Vin Diesel, and other people. You know what? Let's spoil this thing. A heist crew hijacks a semi-truck full of the latest in late 90s technology. DVD players, VCRs, CD players. They must have totally cleaned out of fries. R.I.P. They do this without forcing the truck off the road because in the long run that just makes too much sense. And they're also using custom cars with neon green underlighting at night because that's totally inconspicuous and won't get anyone's attention. I know. I'm bringing common sense into this, but come on, use black cars at least. After this, we meet Connor O'Brien, a young and handsome, at least according to test audiences, racing enthusiast who has an obsession with all things tuna. This tuna obsession gets him noticed by the hot-headed race gang member Vance, who hates tuna apparently, but hates Paul Walker's acting even more, which it's understandable. He picks a fight with Connor and thus upsets crew leader Dom Dorito, who breaks up the fight and Karens out, telling Connor he's going to get him fired, and like most Karens, he totally fails at it. You heard me. The first time we meet Dominic Dorito, he's a Karen. That's an observation that I stand by. Connor O'Brien attends a street race hoping to form an equally attractive crew of his own that appeals to broad audiences, only to run into Dom again. Dom, upset that his Karening failed to get Connor fired, races him for his car and smokes him like a rack of ribs that Vin Diesel eats between takes. Speaking of roasting, Dom gives Connor a proper roasting.
Granny shifting, not double clutching like you should. You're lucky that 100-shot of NOS didn't blow the welds on the intake. Now me and the mad scientist gotta rip apart the block and replace the piston rings you fried.
Yeah, I didn't understand a word of that. Before Dom can collect Connor's pink slip, the cops show up. Did someone call the police? Dom, was that you Karen? The racers run.
Run away! Run away! Run away!
And Connor gives Dom a ride, both escaping the popo. However, in escaping, Connor and Dom accidentally blunder into the territory of a rival racing gang led by Dr. Tran.
Here comes Dr. Tran.
Where's that coming from?
Y'all remember Dr. Tran, right? My references are dated. The Tran clan destroy Connor's car because they're obviously bad people, being all Asian-y in 2001 and everything, and he and Dom have to hoof it back to Dom's place, where Dom gets mad at his own crew for leaving him behind and demands to speak to the manager. When he remembers that he is the manager, he tells O'Brien that he owes Dom a 10-second car. Seems easy enough, just get him a Kia. Those things last about 10 seconds after leaving the parking lot. Kia, offer me a lucrative sponsorship and I will delete this video. At the party, Connor falls for Dom's sister, Mia, which I'm sure Dom will be totally cool with. It's the next day that we learn that Connor is a filthy narc. Boo! He's been part of an FBI LAPD task force to catch the truck pirates, and he's assigned to investigate Dom's crew, who are the #1 suspects. Connor continues his investigation into the Dominic Dorito crew and his, undercover investigation with Dom's sister, which I'm sure won't come back to cause any dramatic tension at all. Connor also bonds with ADHD-laden member of the crew, Jesse, who is young, gifted, and a generally good person, so you know this movie is going to kill him. Connor is caught red-handed snooping around, but convinces Dom and the others that he's actually investigating the rival racers, a plan that works because Dom and his crew are as dumb as a trash bag of cold spaghetti. As a matter of fact, Dom and the Doritos actually accompany Connor to Tran's garage, where they not only discover a Radio Shack load of electronics, but also a perfect analogy for the oil industry's stranglehold in the world economy.
Where are they?
I'm topical. Connor O'Brien tattles on Team Tran, and the Tran clan is raided. Plot twist, they're not the hijackers. The electronics were purchased legally, and Connor is given 36 hours to find the culprit. Dom. It's Dom. I mean, we know that Connor's bad at his job at this point, but we've seen Keanu Reeves' Patrick Swayze surfing movies, and it's totally been Dom this whole time. The Connor and the Dahmer attend race wars, where Jesse wagers and loses his car to Tran. Jesse panics and drives away rather than give up his vehicle, but don't worry, I'm sure he'll be fine. Tran accuses Dom of being the narc, and this of course causes a fight because there's nothing more disgusting, more cowardly, and more dishonorable than being a filthy narc. He's standing right there. Later, Connor sees Dom leaving with his crew to carry out the heist in a twist that surprised absolutely no one. Connor blows his cover to Mia because pretty girl, and the two race to save Dom, because in another turn of events that any reasonable and intelligent person would have seen coming from a mile away, the truck drivers have started arming themselves because this is America, the police are useless, and everyone is too stupid to consider giving the trucks an armed escort. As a matter of fact, let's just take the trucks on the back roads where there is no other traffic or witnesses. There's no way that won't benefit anyone but the stunt crew. What follows is a pretty fun stunt spectacular where Don and his crew hijack a truck, which is cool, but makes no sense when it would be a lot less dangerous to force the truck off the road and not swing from car to car like Tarzan if the trees were going 95 miles an hour. The truck gets away, and Vance is critically injured. Connor rescues him, but in order to get medical help for the guy who's hated him and has probably wanted to kill him for the entire movie, he's forced to reveal his identity as a cop to Dom, who takes it rather well. Well, that's terrifying. Dom and his crew run away.
Run away! Run away!
But Connor catches back up with him to put him under arrest and actually do his darn job for once. Before that happens, Jesse returns. Oh, hey, he's all right after all. Oh, no. I didn't see that coming. Dom and Connor chase down Dr. Tran.
I'm not a doctor. I'm only 5 years old.
For a little good old-fashioned vigilante justice, because of course Tran came and did this himself. Of course he came to murder the kid, because Tran is also bad at his job. Tran is whacked, and then Dom and Connor agree to a quarter-mile race over railroad crossings because Paul Walker is a terrible cop, and that's totally not an insane thing to agree to. The race ends in a draw. I'm sorry, I meant to say the race ends in a crash as Dom totals his car, but Connor, dripping with the feelings of friendship and brotherhood that he experienced with Dom and obviously hoping to continue dating his sister, gives him the keys to his car and lets him escape. The movie ends with Dominic Dorito finally surfing that perfect wave. I mean, with Dominic Dorito escaping justice and lead-footing it to Mexico. Yeah, you all know this is Point Break, right? I'm not the only one who noticed that this is Point Break. I cannot be the only one who noticed that this is a remake of Point Break. I'm probably rehashing an observation that was made 20 years ago, but it's Point Break! Okay, if you were to tell me in 2001 that this movie was going to kick off a billion-dollar cinematic franchise, I would have called you crazy pants, because quite honestly, this movie is forgettable at best. It's a highly derivative story that is literally, as I said, lifted at times from Point Break. It ignores logic for action and is obvious at every painful turn. The Fast and the Furious never surprised me once, never shocked me once, and even as a car and stunt spectacular, never made me gasp in awe or even raise my eyebrows once. I know this might be a delicate subject for the fans, but I would be remiss in saying what a colossal non-presence Paul Walker is in this movie. It's hard to believe that he was playing a cop going undercover as a racer and wasn't believable as a cop or a racer. Walker's lack of charisma only becomes more apparent when he shares the screen with Vin Diesel, who has a much stronger stage presence and outshines him every time they're together. Maybe that was the intention, to show Dom's strength? Perhaps. But that would also mean that the writers of The Fast and the Furious put thought into that aspect of the movie, and given how little they thought about anything else, I doubt it. The dialogue in this film is...
I smell skanks.
Well...
See, even the cops are Hollywood in Hollywood.
Bad.
Why don't you girls just pack it up before I leave tread marks on your face?
Really bad. But it is entertainingly bad. So, listen. This movie is the cinematic equivalent of soda and candy. It's gonna taste good and make kids and boys hyper for a while, but it's just junk food. Of course, a lot of people like junk food, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with liking The Fast and the Furious, and I don't want you to think that I'm telling you that there is. But since my opinion is the only one that matters right now, what did I think? The Fast and Furious never becomes offensively bad. It's enjoyable on a visceral level, the part of your brain that screams out, "Car fast, girl pretty!" But it's also not good. I believe this is an appropriate time to call a movie mid, as the young ones say. As in, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a 5. And if it was not the birth of the Fast and Furious franchise, I would probably never even think about this movie again. Not out of maliciousness or hatred, but because it left no impact on me whatsoever. This movie is a proverbial fart in the wind. And yet somehow, it's a fart in the wind that triggered a pop culture explosion. So you might say that The Fast and the Furious is a toxic Taco Bell fart. And I mean that in the best possible way. I would love to see someone put that quote on a poster. And so, I finally saw The Fast and the Furious, and it was fine. I liked it better the first time I saw it when it was called Point Break, but it was fine. I guess we'll see how my opinion changes when I check out the other, 2 or 3? 9? And a spinoff? And another that hasn't been released yet? Well, buckle up and vroom vroom, I guess. 2024 is going to be a fast and furious year.